나와 신나고 뻔게 또 신나 샤바와키 신나무 기그라니 짜이 샤바기라니 짜이무 기그라니
Just because I'm fat doesn't mean I can't squat. Just because I'm fat doesn't mean I can't do a burpee. Just because I'm fat doesn't mean I can't still complain about the workout. Just because I'm fat doesn't mean I can't do the splits.
Yep, you guessed it. They are all Clint's girlfriends, and now we know what he really does at the gym all the time. Welcome back. Beautiful.
I feel like I'm scrolling Tinder.
And pretty much, yeah, legitimately.
That's exactly what my algo feeds me all day. They know what I like.
They know what you like. As of course, welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we will be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news developing right now, as of course there's a lot to talk about, especially with U.S. forces that now, according to some declassified documents, are prepared for a coordinated attack against Russia, China, North Korea. What's really going on here? As RFK Jr. might actually drop out soon in order to support Donald Trump, as Kamala Harris is refusing to do a debate with the former president of the United States, as Barack Obama and Michelle Obama will soon be speaking at the DNC today, as there are more explosive developments happening in the Middle East right now that are not really convenient for the Democrats. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast for the next 2 hours. I would ask you guys to please share this broadcast with your friends and family members, as of course it is more imperative than ever that you guys get active and engaged in the conversation, especially to beat out the larger kind of algorithm problems that we have been facing here for a while. You could also participate in the conversation, and one quick and easy way to do that is to simply sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com. When you do that, you get access to a lot of really cool things, but one of the things you get access to is a Telegram group that I am in right now. And you could call in. You could ask whatever you want. You could show us whatever you want. You could be a part of the conversation just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. As of right now, we don't have a caller, and we, of course, always will prioritize new callers. We also will be taking your super chats on mysuperchat.com, also linked in the description, where, of course, your super chats actually get to show up on screen, and we, of course, will be prioritizing them over any and all super chats. Joining us for today's conversation is Sayer G. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Awesome. For the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
Founder of greenmedinfo.com, a natural health website. Since 2008, we've provided free access to the world to over 10,000 health topics, and we're ad-free, independent, 100% user-supported. We have great respect for other projects like this one, Luke, so thank you for your work. It's essential we create these parallel structures, and just really happy to be here.
Yeah, more important than ever, especially about what's happening to the health of the average kind of American out there, as we probably will have to save our conversation for about an hour from now when we go to another platform, since you dealt with a lot of crazy censorship. So we'll talk about your larger journey and the deeper down the rabbit hole health subjects that Clint always keeps trying to ignore.
Yeah, I ignore them because I want to be as rotund as the women that I'm attracted to. And there's nothing wrong with that, Luke, and I will not accept your shaming, because you should love me for who I am and exactly how I am.
It's not. Big ladies need love too.
That's right. And so do big men, and I will be one of them one day.
You are a Nephilim already. So.
At Liberty Lock Pod, if you want to support my work, subscribe there. I'll follow you back. Liberty Lockdown is the show. Clint Russell's the name, co-host of the Best Political Show. If you want to subscribe, or actually you should, if you want to listen and never miss an episode, you should go to your RSS feed and look up the Best Political Show and Liberty Lockdown. Subscribe to both. If you want to get really dumb, you can subscribe to Tower Gang, but I wouldn't recommend that. Steph.
Yeah, well, before, those girlfriends aren't too bad. They're in the gym.
I mean, they're
working out. They're taking care of themselves.
They're trying to make me not attracted to them anymore.
Yeah,
that's upsetting.
Yeah, this is a lot better than the average American out there. So no shade for these women. Shouts out to them for actually hitting the gym and actually doing the right thing. Yeah. So they're a part of their journey. And, just like, we don't fat shame or blame Clint for his fat kink.
Thank you. I used to date Lizzo, and then she started to get in shape, and I was like, it's over. I don't care how much money you make. I'm not interested.
Shouts out to Lizzo, too, for working out. Anyone who's working out, for all types and stages. Good job. Good job.
Oh, gosh. Hi, everyone. This is Steph of We Are Change, and I am here to push the buttons.
All right, and I definitely recommend people work out, take care of themselves, because we are definitely going through some very crazy and very difficult geopolitical times. As, of course, we just got this development from the New York Times that reads, in a classified document approved in March, President Biden approved U.S. forces to prepare for possible coordinated nuclear confrontations with Russia, China, and North Korea. Now, again, we don't know a lot about this particular case. Was this classified document something that was an extension of a previous document? Why was it declassified? Why was it released to the general public? Is it still classified? We still don't know all the exact details here, but for the larger kind of development here, it should be a larger wake-up call to the severity of the situation geopolitically of what's happening inside of the United States government that is financing a lot of conflicts in the world, that is bankrolling it through your tax dollars and bringing us on the brink of a full all-out nuclear war that I think people realized today we're a lot closer to than a lot of other people expected it to be. As of course, this is pretty serious. I'm kind of questioning why we're hearing about this now, since the development came out in March and the documents classified, declassified, we still don't know the exact kind of ramifications of, but this is pretty big. This is pretty significant.
Oh, it's a huge deal. But the obvious tie that binds here is that what is the commonality between those three nations? Well, we happen to be arming and funding Taiwan, which is adversarial with China. We happen to be arming and funding Ukraine, which is adversarial with Russia. We happen to be arming and funding South Korea, which is adversarial with North Korea. Why are we doing that? Why are we risking a three-front nuclear exchange to defend nations that are not America? I don't know why people don't ask this question more often. It seems so obvious to me, and yet it is kind of taboo to talk about. And, if it weren't for Ron Paul, I don't think this would be in the national dialogue whatsoever, that we shouldn't be doing these things. And even with Ron Paul and his influence on the whole MAGA America First movement, it does not seem as if the politicians are responding to the increasingly non-interventionist populist right-wing movement in this country that does not want to continue to fight these wars. They ignore them at their peril, and we'll see what happens when it comes Election Day, because I think that's, if Trump loses, it'll be because he was not as non-interventionist as most libertarians would like him to be.
Yeah, we have a T-shirt on thebestpoliticalshirts.com that reads, "If I Told You So Was a Person," and then, of course, there's a picture of Ron Paul on there, who, by the way, today is also celebrating his 89th birthday, as, of course, the man's a legend. The man's an OG. I was very lucky to spend some time with him at the recent Bitcoin conference, and, he's up there in age, but he's presidential age with the way that things are going.
That's right, dude.
Get him in there.
He's
Get
in
him
his
into
prime.
this is like the perfect time to put them in. Put him in the Senate.
Absolutely.
Again, who cares how old he is?
He's younger than like half of the senators at this point.
Exactly.
Look, I had the biggest honor of my life, probably I don't even know if it was a month ago at this point, but I got to have Ron Paul on Liberty Lockdown, got to interview the legend himself, the man who inspired me in more ways than I can even detail here. It's just an amazing honor, and a sincere happy birthday to the legend.
Absolutely. I mean, he did a lot of really incredible things that are definitely worth noting and paying attention to, and I think the biggest of which is warning about foreign entanglements. And if only we would have listened, maybe we wouldn't be preparing for a three-front nuclear war with Russia, China, and North Korea. There's also Iran now, so there's that. But at first, hearing about everything that kind of unfolded here, I automatically was like, wait, what happened in March? But before talking about that, Sayer, I don't know if you're familiar with Ron Paul or everything he's kind of done or his larger kind of influence here, but I think it's true. If we would have listened to him, we would have been a lot better off.
Absolutely, yeah. He's one of the only politicians that I would say I can trust that's actively in that role today.
Absolutely. A lot of these other guys, can't really trust them. I don't trust them at all.
I mean, this is the thing, though. When Ron was giving these warnings, we were about half of our national debt, and I'm talking like early 2000s. So all of the warnings he was giving about the impending real estate apocalypse, which hit in 0809, he was warning us about that from 02 through 07, getting increasingly louder as he realized that the danger was coming ever more close. He also warned the same when it came to the constant, first nuclear proliferation, but also the constant intervention abroad and the catastrophic consequences financially, but also spiritually, really, like just to be taking innocent lives at that scale.
Yeah.
I think that that's oftentimes a point that's overlooked. And he didn't talk about it much because he was more focused on policy. But I think that has been a lesson that has stuck with me, is like, oh yeah, once you do that, you kind of have a blight on the nation. And I don't really believe in the collectivist sense of guilt or shame, because obviously I didn't support these wars and I'm not responsible for them. But I do think that there is still some sort of karmic repercussions that basically condemn a nation. Once you destroy so many different nations, it's kind of only a matter of time before yours falls too. I don't know if you...
I absolutely agree. Yeah. I think what's been happening with the live streaming of so many children in Gaza, to me is it's just more of a psychological operation to make people feel like they're powerless and or colluding in it by not knowing what to do, or maybe not feeling like they can act. But it's very effective at demoralization, and that is the key, that you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's sad too, because like the activists that I do see, because I've attended, and I know Luke has been to many rallies and things like that too throughout his career, but I had not been active in this arena for the longest time because I was running a mortgage company up until 4 years ago. But I've now attended, many anti-war rallies, and it's just really heartbreaking to see that, like, even when it's put on by libertarians or right-leaning organizations, the vast majority of the people that are in the streets are going to be leftists, if not communists. And it's interesting that like the right wing, I think, is more dispirited than the left, and I'm not sure why that is, but it definitely, I've noticed that it seems as if there's very, very little activism.
Well, there's been a lot of kind of deliberate COINTELPRO-like activities that have, of course, undermined a lot of right-wing kind of institutions, organizations, and their ability to largely kind of voice their opinion in some kind of organized way. There's that, and then there's also, the legal kind of prosecution of a lot of these individuals, including even religious organizations that believe in things like pro-life, that also have been specifically targeted by the FBI, and of course not just investigated but thrown in jail because of their peaceful protests that they do. So shouts out to Ron Paul again, and he definitely never compromised. This is a meme made by the Free Thought Project. Shouts out to them as well. As of course, if we would have listened to him, we would have saved a lot of money. Not intervening in foreign conflicts that didn't amount to anything except for more of a larger kind of spending bill, but also a lot of the world kind of looking at us being like, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you financing all these bad guys? Why are you financing these conflicts? Why are you making sure that there's going to be perpetual war in these very specific hotspot regions that, of course, soon could be completely out of hand to the point of nuclear war and escalations, which could happen. Now, as soon as this kind of development came out by the New York Times, automatically I'm like, okay, what happened in March? Well, Putin got reelected in March. And then when he did, he also, of course, set up new ties between them, the Russians, and the Chinese. And geopolitically, the United States, in my opinion, is making a lot of big mistakes, angering the two, as, of course, historically, China and Russia have a lot of tension between them. There's a lot of anger between them. There's a lot of bad history. There's a lot of bad blood between them. I think if we're actually caring about American hegemony and American interest, we wouldn't be trying to pin them together against us. We would be trying to figure out a scenario and a situation where, of course, that doesn't happen, as these are powerful countries with a lot of natural resources, specifically Russia. China has a lot of manufacturing production facilities. You combine the two, and you, of course, have something that is not good for the future of the U.S. petrodollar or U.S. hegemony. As, of course, in March specifically, it was announced that there were going to be broader ties between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. And, of course, China and Russia extended their agreements and decided committed to work with each other, not only trading, not only economically, but also with their militaries. As of course, in March, Putin also announced that he will be visiting China in May, which he did. And then, of course, the two got together and were hanging out. They were buddy-buddy.
And working business deals.
Working out business deals. And it wouldn't surprise me if there could have been some kind of scuttlebutt or some kind of spying apparatus that kind of overheard some kind of larger conversation between the Chinese and the Russians saying, hey, we're in this together against the United States, and this is why this kind of classified document was propped up, saying, hey, we got to be ready for this because they're coming together, and they might be advancing their causes against ours soon, to the point of a larger conflict that we could be headed towards against them together against us.
Well, just to emphasize how easily avoidable this was, just think about it. Like, these were both communist nations in the 1900s, right? But you had a Marxist-Leninist version in Russia, and then you kind of had this Maoist hybrid version of communism in China. They never came together. They never became this unified force that you would expect. You know, communists would want to be a collective. We all have the same ideas. Let's come together. It's also ultimately going to get rid of the government. We're going to have just collectives all over the world, and we'll have the ideal outcome there. And they never did it. And I think that tells you everything you need to know, that these nations are not in lockstep with one another, and they don't want to be. So the fact that they are now being forced to be tells you everything you need to know about American foreign policy and what stupid decisions have to have been made for these nations to ultimately become odd bedfellows. And that's what you're witnessing. I mean, as I've detailed when I was on IRL over a year ago, when the Russia-Ukraine war had not been happening for years as it has now. It was Vladimir Putin that very much wanted to be added into NATO. He asked Bill Clinton, of all people, 20 plus years ago, and he was laughed out of the room. And it's just unbelievable to me that you could have basically the entire purpose of NATO was to fight against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union ended over 30 years ago. What are we doing? But now you have Putin and Russia cozying up with the CCP, and it's just none of this had to happen. It didn't have to go this direction, and the fact that it has is all a product of the neoconservative policymakers in DC that have been destroying not just this country, not just our balance sheet, but also the world for the past 40 years.
There could have been trade. There could have been an exchange of natural resources and goods. There could have been prosperity. There could have been, things that would have uplifted the economy. But no, we don't have any of that. We have sanctions. We have larger economic wars happening. And people still fail to realize we're still dependent on China for a lot of our goods. Now, if we are in a full-out kind of conflict with them, if something kind of unfolds in Taiwan, this is going to definitely put us in a precarious situation, since the Chinese economy is interlinked with the American economy as well. But this has been brewing for a while. Even Palantir, which is kind of a private intelligence organization, they're a CIA-funded data mining company, came out and a couple years ago even talked about how the United States is very likely going to fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran. These are the words of Palantir head Alex Karp, who also is a Bilderberg member. And those comments are pretty important to note here, as of course his friend Peter Thiel is literally talking about leaving the United States. We'll be talking about that in the after segment that's going to be on another platform in a little bit.
I don't see this happening at all. I don't understand. I don't understand the rationale, like the casus belli, like why? What's the reason for war with these nations? I also don't understand how you expect the American people to be willing to, much less be capable of prevailing in that fight. We're talking about I think, other than Iran, we're talking about all nuclear powers. You cannot have wars between nuclear powers. This was a given ever since the creation of the nuclear bomb. Yep. Everybody knew that.
But now we have the proxies. So small foreign conflicts,
I guess,
that are happening, but probably will be expanding to Taiwan.
Right. But that still doesn't diminish the risk of the escalatory trap that comes with nuclear powers engaged in a war. Like, for instance, if Ukraine were to take back Sebastopol or Crimea, well, then Putin has already said that he would probably use low-level nuclear weapons. Well, if he does, the escalatory trap has already been triggered. Then you have NATO allies, including maybe Poland. I don't know if they have nukes at this junction. They might. But other NATO allies that have nuclear weapons, France, that they could fire it just as a quote-unquote deterrent. But then Russia has a policy of escalate to de-escalate. So what does that mean? Well, it means you escalate. You escalate very aggressively in hopes that you will deter your enemy from responding. But what if they don't? Well, then the world ends. What are we doing? For what cause? For what ends? For the life of me, I don't understand the logic behind it. I don't think it's winnable. I think this is a game, the highest stakes game of chicken I have ever witnessed in my life. And it's totally unnecessary, and it doesn't benefit not just the American people, the people of the world. There is no benefit for this. Sorry for the get on my soapbox and rant, but it's just stunning to me that there isn't more outrage that we are being led by our noses into this conflict that is totally avoidable.
Yeah. So Poland doesn't have nuclear weapons, but they were asking the Biden administration to, of course, host nuclear weapons, as they declared publicly. Yeah, we'll keep them here. We'll have them ready here, which again just shows you the larger kind of escalations that have been particularly happening in the region that are of grave concern to a lot of people. I've been paying attention to a lot of this geopolitical stuff for a very long time, and it definitely does seem like things are more tense than they ever have been.
For sure, dude.
Again, the conflict in Syria was a major conflict a couple of years ago under Barack Obama. Luckily, it was prevented from becoming another Libya, but that became a very close situation.
Doesn't that seem so mild compared to today?
Yeah, absolutely. As of course, right now we have a crazy situation unfolding in the Middle East, crazy situation unfolding in Europe, a crazy situation that probably soon will be unfolding in Asia. And all of these situations mean that it's not only going to have significant ramifications for those local populations, it's also going to have significant ramifications for the economy and everyone's personal well-being. And
that's assuming it stays conventional.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, this is all absolutely ridiculous. This is nations saying, we'll end it all. Which bring in the Nephilim, bring in the aliens, let them stop these bring in the Anunnaki, bring in Planet X, let them stop this nonsense from occurring. Will they?
I have more faith in the interdimensional beings that Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson talk about than I do our current State Department.
Yeah.
These people are just, they're so dangerous. It's amazing.
And just like we saw last night with Biden giving his speech at the DNC, the guy was barely able to speak coherently. He was shouting. He was screaming. He was talking about how he wants to have chemical factories in poor neighborhoods, which is like you're planning on poisoning the poors. I mean,
that's what we're gonna bring back. We're gonna bring them back. I was like, what the hell?
It's absolutely just crazy. As of course,
I scared Atlas.
She's like, what the hell are you doing?
Scared me too.
Biden scared me. I'm just reflecting that energy.
But of course, we always had the kind of larger talking point that Trump was going to bring us on the brink of a global conflict. Mother effer, they're doing it. And this could be one reason out of many reasons why RFK Jr. soon potentially might be dropping out of the presidential election and joining forces with Donald Trump. Yes, this is an article from Newsmax, but this specifically came from RFK Jr.'s VP pick, Nicole Shanahan, that was recently on a podcast episode where she said this.
There's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walt's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
Interesting words, as I think this definitely presents a scenario that I think everyone was kind of expecting to happen. Will it happen? What do you guys think?
I think so. I just intuitively, I think that would make sense because most of his supporters would want to vote for Trump, I imagine, right?
Well, I think probably a majority of them, but there's a lot that would very much not like to vote for Trump and probably will not. What I find fascinating about this is because I ran for the VP under the LP ticket, I really understand this dilemma deeply. And let me just explain briefly. Basically, for any third party run, there's this constant debate over whether or not you should advertise to your supporters that you are actually running to win or you are running to make a difference. And my belief has always been that because I kind of reject political paradigms that I think that you ought to tell the truth no matter what, which is not popular with some indie libertarian party who want us to essentially lie and say, well, we could win. You never know. And it's like, but you're not going to. Not until you have a viable third party that has already proven that it is a genuine threat. RFK Jr., I thought, early on had the opportunity to be that because he was willing to tell taboo truths that no other political party or politician was really willing to touch, like full third rail topics. And I really respect the hell out of it. The issue was that, like, what made him viable as a threat, as a third party threat, which is what he was telling that truth. But when it came to this one particular conflict between Israel and Palestine, he totally failed to do so. He was like, truth, nuance, deep understanding, Russia, Ukraine, every single thing. He knew everything about everything. And then it was like, the Palestinians are the most pampered people in human history. And you're like, what? So as far as I'm concerned, his campaign ended that day.
Yeah.
He became no longer a viable third-party threat. And as such, I think that the best thing he can do is probably get get a cabinet position with Trump. And it hurts me to say that because I really want this country to have a viable third party, but I think he destroyed his opportunity.
Well, if RFK was smart, he would have played into that, and he would have gotten massive amounts of support, especially from the people that are protesting the DNC right now.
Exactly.
And it is a significant portion of a lot of Americans that kind of feel disenfranchised by the two kind of political parties out there that don't really represent the opposing kind of view. So to me, that was a kind of a big failure on his part. But more importantly, if that's what he believes, that's what he believes. That's what he stands behind. That's what he is running, and we can't fault him for that.
No,
we could disagree with him,
right.
but at the same time, him and Trump do have some kind of common enemies. As of course, they're both not aligned with the deep state, the intelligence agencies that have been undermining both of them. They're not friends with the corporate media that has been running hit pieces after hit pieces on RFK and, of course, Donald Trump. And they're also, not too cozy with the DNC that essentially screwed over RFK and denied him from the process of being able to run democratically during the primaries. As, of course, later on they just replaced Biden. But there should have been a real kind of primary that never happened because the DNC decided to screw over RFK. So on those basic kind of merits, as well as how aligned they are politically on a lot of the issues, I think it just makes sense that they come together. And I think I think we're going to see this later than sooner. I think we're going to see this probably as one of the October surprises that are going to be happening in just a few weeks from now. The closer we get to the election night, we will see, I think, RFK Jr. coming out and saying, hey, I'm Team Trump now because we have the same enemies here and we got to come together and we can't allow another kind of 4 years of Democratic political leadership that will essentially screw us over and eradicate free speech and essential liberties here in America.
Well, they also have another similarity in that either they or their relatives have had lead fly thousands of feet per second right past their heads. So, yeah, I mean, it's and let's be honest, neither of them are good on the Israel-Palestine issue. And let me just clarify one other thing. It's not that I expect RFK Jr. to be some stand with Gaza type of dude. I'm just like, he could have outflanked Trump on the America First mantra and been like, when I say non-intervention, when I say no more foreign aid, I mean no more foreign aid. Like, that would have been such a healthy thing for this country to have a viable political candidate or presidential candidate that was up there saying that on the largest platforms.
Yeah, just pull a Ron Paul, be like, no money.
Yeah.
To all none of it. I'm not giving you a penny.
Just a blank no check, if you will, as opposed to a blank check. Like, that would have been just absolutely earth moving, and he refused. And I have to ask why. Luke is alluding to maybe he genuinely believes this. Maybe. I lean the other direction, but I'd like to believe that he's not compromised. I just I don't understand it. I don't.
He's hanging out with Shmuley. So,
well, indeed.
Sayer, I don't know if you have a horse in this particular race or have anyone that you're personally backing or have your own kind of reaction to what's happening in this year's kind of political cycle, but it definitely is kind of a crazy one.
Yeah, I mean, I was working with
If you can't just bring up the microphone.
Working with Bobby for years, actually, around vaccine awareness, meaning actually shedding light on peer-reviewed research related to problems with efficacy and then safety issues since 2014. And so when he ran, I was a big supporter, actually. And you just nailed it, though, Clint. Like when he didn't stand with the non-interventionists, end the forever wars and children's health, outside of a specific zip code. It's like, Gaza, half the population is children, literally. So it was an egregious situation for me. So I pulled out. I'd actually endorsed him and unendorsed him. I've never done that with a candidate before, but I had to because I felt it was such a violation of who I thought he could be for us.
Right.
And ultimately, I want a pro-peace candidate. Like,
we cannot get one. It's impossible to get one.
Well, a lot of people dropped out from RFK with that, including Dennis Kucinich, who was his campaign manager, who said, essentially after RFK made that kind of announcement, I'm not going to be a part of this. He's also running for Congress in Ohio, I just found out.
Yeah, independent. He's also independent. He'll be the only one if elected, and I really hope he gets in because he'll be the deciding factor.
That would be huge.
Yeah, I just literally texted him. I'm like, you got to come on the show if you're running for Congress, bro. Like, what are you doing?
You talking about Kucinich?
Yeah. So
nice.
We just messaged him, and Kucinich is like an OG. He's like the Ron Paul on the left a little bit.
Totally.
But he's not perfect on a lot of the issues.
He's red-pilled on aliens. I love that guy.
Yeah, I worked. I actually worked with him specifically passing the James Stroger bill, and we were able to get a lot of help for a lot of the people who were screwed over after 2001 at the events that happened in New York City. And Dennis Kucinich, he's a real one. He's been in it for a while, and the Democrats and Republicans conspired together to kick him out of political office, and they definitely screwed him over. But Donald Trump looks like he's kind of open to this idea of putting RFK Jr. in his administration, as Donald Trump came out and said, quote, I like him and I respect him. He's a brilliant guy, speaking about RFK Jr. Quote, he's a very smart guy. I've known him for a long time. If he is thinking about getting out, certainly I would be open to it. As, of course, the two also had a private phone call that allegedly went many hours long right before the RNC. And there's definitely a lot of commonalities here. We had a very interesting conversation with RFK Jr. on Timcast. I think if you haven't watched that episode yet, go check it out, because we talked about a lot of different things that kind of happened behind the scenes between Trump and RFK Jr., what RFK Jr. was trying to do about specific procedures that Bill Gates intervened in and prevented larger investigations from happening with that specific area. But we'll probably get into that area, in about 30 minutes.
Yep. Let me just give you a little breaking news, and I'm still going to classify this as rumor news because it's Alex Jones reporting, and he can be sensationalistic at times, but he's saying that, yes, indeed, RFK Jr. is set to join Trump campaign ensuring victory over the Democrats in November. Sources say Kennedy is being considered for Attorney General. Wow. Yeah. That's an interesting one. We'll see if it actually happens.
RFK Jr., Attorney General. I like it.
That could work.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a lawyer, so and he's fought a lot of corporations. It would be interesting, but
well, he's fought a lot of polluters.
Yes.
He's fought a lot of people that destroyed the environment in a rightful way.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying corporations.
We had our concerns about him because he specifically talked about jailing people who didn't believe that the weather changes based on how many taxes you pay. We had that specific conversation, but he definitely seems like he has changed his position on that. And on Timcast, we kind of went into it. But without saying any of the bad words, and Sayer, you have a little bit more of a perspective here than we do since you were kind of more closely tied to him. What do you think he would do as Attorney General of the United States?
Well, one thing I'm excited about hearing that is that he is now part of Biden versus Missouri. So that SCOTUS ruling that kicked the, probably the most important First Amendment case in history out, just technically because of lack of standing of plaintiffs, is that he was on the so-called disinfo dozen list with myself, where they specifically harmed us in a way that you can factually demonstrate. So they're going to refile that case, and it looks like it'll go back next summer. So with him being Attorney General, I mean, I imagine
Is he a defendant in that?
Yeah, he's a plaintiff.
Or
He's
a plaintiff.
now officially a plaintiff.
I
now.
wonder. I don't know if he would be able to preside over that because it would be a conflict of interest.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
it gets
good
very
point.
complicated.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly. Yeah, but either way, it's just adds.
It's still
high profile.
Yeah, it still would be a very
That's a really good point.
very
actually.
interesting position to have him in, not just for that case, because there's so many important cases right now, and there's so much like deep investigations that you need a really courageous attorney general to actually be willing to go after these things and like chase these rabbit holes wherever they lead. He has proven himself to be dogged on many cases, except for that one that I point out over and over again.
But as Attorney General inside of the United States, he wouldn't have an impact on that. And I think he would be looking into companies like Bayer/Monsanto.
Yep.
I think he would be looking into the big pharma companies. I think he would be looking into, the companies that are producing a huge amount of microplastics everywhere, the companies producing all the seed oils out there, and all the other kind of processed foods that are plaguing the American people and absolutely wrecking their health.
Yeah, well, that's all super important too, of course. But my bigger interest personally is in getting to the corruption of the political establishment. Like you need an agent because I think it was Sessions under Trump. Like all these dudes are just deep state monsters. Like they don't ever actually go after the criminals in the criminal organization, which is the federal government. Like we need someone who's an outsider that is sincerely an outsider that will go after these people viciously because they have come after us viciously. Is he that guy? I don't know. But I have some hope, and that's more than I can say about virtually any other politician. So,
yeah, it looks like Trump made some comments specifically about RFK Jr. today to CNN. Here's the clip.
Can I ask you about RFK? Because just moments ago, his running mate said that they were considering endorsing you. Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
I think Trump is thinking through it as he's being asked about it. Right? And I think he definitely didn't watch the podcast that RFK Jr.'s VP was on.
Yeah, for sure. It's just bizarre to me that wouldn't be something he's thought about deeply. Like, this is probably the only way you lose is if Kennedy stays in the race all the way through November and he angles himself to the right of you, therefore absorbing people that are upset about 2020, for instance. Hi, it's me, Clint Russell, very pissed about 2020. So I think that, like, if I'm him, I don't know who his advisors are, but they should have been working on this for the past 3 months at least, trying to negotiate a deal to get RFK not to just drop out of the race, but to leave and endorse and campaign on his behalf. I mean, it would be really big. So I don't know if I buy that he's never thought about this. If he hasn't, he needs some better advisors because I would have been all over this.
I say strategically, wait out for as long as you can. Let RFK build up a bigger base. And then when you're closer to the election, then make this move.
Totally agree, man.
So I think that would be more advantageous for the kind of bigger bang for your buck here.
Let me also just say real quick, Nicole Shanahan, I've spent some time with, and she is awesome. I think she's a really interesting lady. And, the genuine inquisitiveness of RFK Jr. when it comes to a lot of taboo topics. I love that, and I think that like that ticket is really like interesting, and I'm kind of heartbroken that they've fallen apart this late in the cycle. But at the same time, like they have a lot of leverage right now, and they can wield it how they want. This is exactly the dilemma that the libertarians were presented with. Is like, well, do you want to try and play ball with the GOP a little bit to get? Whoa, dog! Her head just snapped my headphones almost off. I forgot what I was saying.
We have some super chats. Steph, let's read them off really quick.
All right, we got Clint's crusty pride hole saying,
"Good Lord,"
saying, "Hola, amigos. If Kamala wins, I can take Solstice in watching Clint cry himself slowly into insanity."
You don't need to. He's already insane.
Exactly. I can't get crazier.
Andrew Jacobs saying, "Happy birthday to that old guy dancing to the god-awful rave music at the very beginning of the show."
Yeah,
Dr. Ron Paul, what's up, Luke, Steph, Toad, and guest?
Toad?
You are Toad now.
Oh,
you're
that's
not
right.
Clint. You are Toad. You're impersonating.
Every time people say it, I forget. I'm like, what?
So anyway.
Yo, get down. What are you doing?
What is she doing?
Oh, she's misbehaving. All right.
She's about to get her period, which means
Bad dog.
dogs always act out when they do that. She especially, she's mischievous. But she's a great dog, and she's the real co-host of the show. As, of course, continuing on with the news, we, of course, have this article from the Daily Mail that got an exclusive comment from U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, who came out and said that federal law enforcement is doing, quote, everything wrong in their investigation into the attempted assassination against Donald Trump. Now, I think, Clint, you had the initial reaction here that I have personally myself. No ish. Yeah, you thought you were going to get the truth from the feds. You thought the feds are going to investigate the feds. You thought you were going to get some answers here and a legitimate reason to what actually happened here. Nope,
dude. We haven't gotten anything. It's been 5 weeks. We don't even have a hint of a motive on the closest thing to a presidential in our lifetimes. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. But I mean, his point is well taken. But this actually goes back to what I was talking about with RFK Jr. Like, he has a tremendous incentive to want to get to the bottom of who just took a shot at the president of the United States. Like, his uncle and his own father, for God's sakes. No. Does he have an incentive or what? So as AG, he could actually be doggedly after this. That's what I find most interesting.
Say, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I think the same people that took the shot at JFK took the shot at Donald Trump. Not the same exact people, but the same kind of organizations and institutions behind it.
Permanent state, deep state, absolutely. Yeah, same.
Yep.
These comments are pretty interesting as the senator goes on and says that what he found out, what the Justice Department is doing now is, quote, jaw-dropping, and he slammed the agency for, quote, thinking they are above the law. Well, they are. They literally take shots.
They are the law.
They are the law. They make up the law, and they, of course, rig the law in a way where, of course, the people that they want to punish will be punished. Yep. The people who, of course, believe other political ideas, commit worse acts, they never get punished for some strange reason here. As, of course...
do you find... just quick tangent, Luke. Do you find it odd that Trump isn't talking more? Like, he's...
Absolutely not. If you have, like, deep elements of, like, the, intelligentsia take shots at you, you're not going to be screaming about it when you're not in a position of power.
Okay.
You're going to wait until you get in a position of power. You don't want to rile these guys up that are so desperate to try to take your life.
But don't you think that there is a political... Like imagine we had a presidential candidate who had a bullet graze his ear, for instance, and he were to spend the next 90 days, or I guess it would have been 120 from the event, just going around the country saying, like, this is how much the deep state fears me. Like, that is such a compelling sales pitch. It almost guarantees him victory. However, I grant you, it also increases the chances they take another shot at him. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just an interesting, like, it's a Pascal's wager.
Yeah, it's like a hard situation to be in, because how do you rectify that kind of situation? Like, hey, there's crazy people out there that try to take my life. They're in power. I'm not. Right. I can't really do anything about it. So for me, it's like, let's
talk about policy.
Let's talk about what did he talk about recently? That was kind of a larger kind of distraction out there. I forgot, but he goes off tangents, especially on Truth Social, about a lot of the things that are like, okay, this doesn't really matter. Okay, like we don't care. But I do think that he should be kind of talking about this more. I think this should be more of an issue, as of course they kind of wiped it away from the headlines. They wiped it away from the conversation. Entirely. And it's like old news. It never happened. This is significant. This is something big. This is something major that happened to him, that if I'm running for the president of the United States, I might not be going as conspiratorial. And again, it could also be a personal thing. It could be a lot of trauma associated with him almost losing his life. Maybe he doesn't want to continually talk about that.
He could be shook. I'll grant you that.
Yeah,
but like,
it's a lot that he's even continuing forward. Like that says a lot about him. Yes, he has all these expectations because he's running, but as a person to have to go through that, it just says a lot that he's still going, regardless at what level.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to realize that, like, if our thesis is correct, it means that the government that he lives under, that he used to theoretically control, he never really did, is interested in removing him from the chessboard permanently, extrajudicially. That's a very big thing to deal with, But the reason I don't buy that he's having some sort of epiphanous religious experience because his life was almost ended is because his immediate reaction was fight. Like this.
It was
this
almost
guy,
too perfect now that I think about it.
No. Well, I grant you it is too perfect. But assuming that was a sincere reaction, I don't think that's the type of person that then goes, he wakes up the next day and he goes, the Secret Service did a pretty good job. Like the fact that they only got off 8 rounds, it's like,
we're looking into Iran. Iran might be responsible for this thing.
None of that makes sense. None of that makes sense. It does not jive. Like what I was describing with Kennedy earlier, how like he's great on 90% of stuff. And then you're like, what? That's the same thing with Trump here. It's like
I think he's playing
what?
possum, but that's just my own perspective. I could be wrong.
No, I think you might be right. I just don't know.
There could have been. I think the larger plot, and I don't know if you have any kind of theories about this, say, or if you want to get into this too. But I think the larger plot was to take him out, and if he was taken out, Biden would still be the nominee, and we would have been in a full-on conflict with Iran right now, and they would have blamed it on Iran, and they would have brought in someone like Nikki Haley to replace him, and then either way, they would have gotten a full-on perpetual continued war with Iran. That's just my 2 cents. That's my instincts. I could be wrong.
Well, what I think was intended was it was a psychological equivalent of 9/11. They wanted his head to explode, live streamed.
Yeah.
And
it would have with that bullet and that caliber.
Yeah.
And that would have been gruesome and
Yeah.
terrifying for everyone watching, saying, this guy, represents me. This guy represents my... Boom.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude.
That trauma, that I've shot
70 million plus supporters that are ride or die for this dude, and they just see him go poof.
I shot watermelons and pumpkins with that kind of bullet.
Wow.
Yeah, it would have been atrocious.
Oh my God.
No, it would have been horrible. Sorry, we cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just thinking either way, they would have tried to take that energy and potentially whatever response and then initiate some type of potentially civil war, soft martial law.
Well, see, that's the
martial
thing.
law.
If they couldn't convince the American people that it was Iran, which it wasn't,
No.
duh. But if they couldn't convince them of that, well, then they're going to assume what the rest of us at this table are assuming, and the response is not going to be, okay, yeah, let's go to war with Iran. It's going to be, let's go to war, but not with Iran, if you know what I'm saying. So, man, we got really lucky. That's all I have to say about that. That is unbelievable. Like, I'm not even religious. That's grace of God stuff. That it didn't go that direction.
The trauma-based mind control that would have been used afterwards, that would have been major. That would have been traumatic. In like 4K.
Oh, bro.
My goodness. It would have been absolutely... And everywhere. Everyone would have been sharing it. And that would have been a larger message to all the other American people out there saying, this is what we do. This is how much we're in charge. And then they would have said, it's this dangerous tool that did this, and we got to take this tool away from you now.
Exactly.
And that would have been the next step that they would have been doing.
They would have gone disarm, and then all the people that think that the government was responsible for it, they would have said absolutely not, and then it just escalates from there. But then imagine the meme warfare. You don't even have to actually have people on the left that are doing this, but you could just have deep state operatives that are running this as an op, where they just like over and over again just keep showing the assassination and then like having alleged leftists saying really inflammatory, terrible stuff about it, and then the right wingers that are in mourning and in pure rage. Like it could have, they could have played us like a fiddle. The emotions would have been out of control. Just remember, most of you probably aren't even old enough to remember what it was like after 9/11. But for those of us that are elderly and do remember what it was like, the government could have gotten us to do anything in that
And they
3-month period.
And they did. And then we invaded countries. We tortured people. We got rid of civil liberties. We, of course, petrified anyone in Congress who was daring to speak up against it by sending them anthrax. Like it was a scary time to be around. And that's where I kind of got my start personally, politically, protesting the Iraq War, being like, hey, this is kind of ridiculous. I actually knew people that were injured from the first Iraq War. And I was doing like school projects, specifically interviewing them, specifically talking about the depleted uranium in the first Iraq conflict that unfolded in the 90s and the larger impacts of that was happening to all the troops there. And I'm like, this is stupid. Why are we going after Iraq when Saudi Arabia, this other country in the Middle East, Pakistan, all had larger kind of involvement here every step of the way. And of course, a lot of family members also had questions about that. I worked with some of those families, and that's truly one of the most craziest times in my personal life. And I think we're kind of reaching an even crazier time right now with what just transpired that the establishment wants you to forget. They want you to forget that there was literal shots taken at the former president of the United States, which is pretty crazy. And that could be one reason out of many reasons why allegedly Kamala Harris dropped out of the Fox News debate that was supposed to happen on September 4th. Now, it still does look like the September 10th debate will happen. We, of course, will be providing that to you live as it happens. So don't forget to click the notification button and subscribe, because we're going to be live during that. We're going to be live for the end of the DNC with Roger Stone this Thursday at a special time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be, of course, reacting to everything as it develops, as it happens, as the DNC is still going on right now. And we're tuning into that to make sure that if there's any kind of developments here, we, of course, will be following it closely, as Barack and Michelle Obama are soon to speak on the national stage. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say, since originally they didn't really endorse Kamala at first. Now they are. It'll be very curious to see the exact words that they use and the statements and the larger messaging that they're going to be using today at the DNC. But Kamala dropping out of this Fox News debate, pretty big news, and it might show that the people behind Kamala and the Democratic Party kind of know that this debate could be something that would be major for the American people to realize the larger truth about Kamala and who she is. And I think if any network would be open to highlighting that, it would be Fox News. NBC News, that's hosting the September 10th one, they're aligned with the DNC. They're aligned with her. So their coverage, their questions are probably going to be very favorable towards her and not favorable towards Donald Trump.
100%. And the moderation is going to be very aggressively in her favor, too. Not just the questions, but also interjections, things like that. You could also play tricks with cameras. You can have him look stupid, and cut away when he's looking strong and go pan to him when he's looking dumb. Like, this is all, high-level propaganda work here that we're talking about.
In some ways, I feel like it should be mandatory. I
totally agree.
Right? If you're gonna run, if you're gonna try to get the biggest seat, you might as well have to do these debates no matter what. You can't just drop out. I just drop out.
The thing is the expectation has always been the American people were smart enough that if a candidate refused to debate, no one would support that person.
It's for informational purposes. It's for educational purposes. We need to be able to know what they're running on, what's their platform, and that's one way to do it.
But the point I'm making is that prior generations, if there was a candidate that refused to debate, they would have absolutely no chance at winning. Now, the American people are so freaking dumb that they're like, we'll just let the media tell us who to vote for, and we'll go do it. And I think that's what they're relying on. And you've seen it. Kamala Harris has been radio silent or only doing canned or post-production released videos for the past month since she became the likely nominee. And they know that if she talks off script for any period of time, it destroys her. She was the favorite to win by 5 points just 4 or 5 days ago. She had a few minute or 2 minute long interactions with the media, and her numbers are plummeting. Every time she speaks, her numbers will go down. If she has to debate, her numbers will go down. They know that. That's why they can't have her debate 3 times, so they're going to put her in the most friendly territory. I said this explicitly 2 weeks ago on my Twitter. I was like, this is the whole play here. Trump needs her to talk as much as possible. The DNC and she need to talk as little as possible. Now they have to negotiate that. My expectation is there may be no debate. And I know that sounds totally crazy, but if I'm Trump, I'm going to leverage the position of, look, I agreed to 3 debates. I want 3 debates. I'm prepared to do 3 debates. You're obviously the one running. I'm willing to do all 3. And then the DNC comes out and she goes, he's running. I'm willing to do this debate. He agreed to this debate. But he has the Trump card. He says, I'm ready to do all 3. Let's do all 3.
At this point, these debates are starting to feel like entertainment. I feel like it's like a UFC match, and we're going to see and laugh about
it is.
They are. It's all kind of not UFC, like the WWE in many different ways.
I don't watch any of that.
But
same difference.
But no, I agree with you, Clint. There could be a situation where there's no presidential debates because now Donald Trump's like, wait, I got to go into enemy territory again.
Yep.
I got to go to the network that doesn't like us. I got to go to the people that, of course, are rooting against me. I'm going to go to the network that's calling me the funny mustache guy from the 1930s. Like, are you kidding me? And Kamala she looks like she's afraid of the media. She's afraid of press conferences. She's afraid to speak her mind. As, of course, even CNN's coming out and being like, when are you guys going to do a press conference? Doing one interview like once a month isn't enough. Like, we have some serious questions, and there's a lot of them. As, of course, the Democrats...
Why are you a communist?
Yeah, or like your economic policies, especially when it comes to the taxes that she plans on increasing, and all the news coming out specifically about that. As in the DNC, there's gender-neutral Islamic prayer rooms, so that makes it okay. That she doesn't speak to the press. That makes it okay that she wants to tax us into oblivion. As of course, the larger questions still kind of loom. What's going to be her foreign policy? As there are protesters out there in Chicago right now saying, we're not going to vote for her because she is a, quote, war criminal. This, as of course, the situation in the Middle East is just getting that much more tumultuous, as we are getting reports of massive airstrikes reportedly happening right now in Lebanon, which, of course, complicate the situation. There's also another story of more innocent bystanders being hit here inside of Gaza. As the question still looms,
Jesus.
What is the United States doing here, as they have sent a significant portion of their military down to the Middle East to aid and support this one particular country? As Joe Biden came out last night and said, those protesters, he kind of hinted that they're doing the right thing, but they're protesting him and his policies that they're not answering for, that they're only increasing and, of course, making that much worse for everybody else. So how do you kind of rectify all of this? You really can't. And I think a lot of the protesters are kind of realizing, hey, you're saying we might be on the right side here. We're saying we might be protesting the right thing, but we're protesting what you're doing. And that's a big distinction here. And I think that's a big kind of thing that you can't really hide. You can't run away from, that people want legitimate answers to.
Well, I've been wanting legitimate answers for years now, because this war has lasted, this war in particular has only been, it's almost a year now. But the Russia-Ukraine war is a similar thing. I don't know why it's so much to ask for to just have one person I can vote for that wants peace.
or is it going to be stealing? Or is it going to be stealing my money to give it to foreign governments to hurt other people? Yeah. It's that simple. That's all we want. Now Biden's policies, again, flip-flopping all the time. He came out last night, said, protesters outside have a point. If they do, that means you're wrong. That means what you're doing is not correct. They're protesting you. They're protesting what you're doing.
He's like, look, Bob. I know it's we got to continue to pay the campaign bill. So it just bums me out, man.
And they know if they specifically kind of placate these protests even more, that of course they're going to lose a significant backing and a significant amount of money that keeps pouring into their campaign. That says, no, you're going to keep doing what you're doing. You're going to keep this policy. You're going to keep sending money down there. You're going to keep sending U.S. troops down there. Why are our troops in danger right now in the Middle East right now? Why? Can anyone explain that?
And Biden has been as pro-Israel in foreign policy as anyone on the Democrat side of the aisle for 50 years straight. I mean, he famously said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to create it. And he's he describes it as actually a similar thing to what I think Kennedy alluded to, was that Israel is basically America's aircraft carrier in the Middle East. And it's like, well, that's not cool. Why would you describe a nation that you guys also simultaneously describe as the sacred holy land for these sacred holy people, but you're going to describe it as an aircraft carrier, like a military weapon? It's just nuts. This is becoming we can't even talk about it in detail, so we'll just save it for the next hour.
Yeah, we'll save it. As of course, we're now going to be moving over towards a free speech platform that we are on the front page of. So the conversation continues in a totally unfiltered way on this particular platform that you could go to now and have more of an unfiltered, real, honest conversation that we can't have here. We have to censor here. We can't talk about the things we did. We already got in trouble a couple times, but I think we should be okay somewhat. But the algorithm, again, not doing us any favors, and that's why we've been kind of working very hard on having full free speech on this next platform that we're showing you on the screen right now, that you should go to now, because the conversation ends here and continues on that particular platform. Before going over there, Sayer, where can people find out more information about you?
greenmedinfo.com is a great way to stay abreast of leading edge research, supporting the science of natural healing, informed medical choice. We're just independent journalists speaking about what's going on right now, for example, with the monkeypox scare. So that's where they can sign up for our free newsletter, greenmedinfo.com.
Yeah, I know you haven't been able to say much because we're still on the censorious platform, but on the next platform we are going to be talking about
Clint's dating life.
Yes,
monkeypox.
Clint and the thing he got in the sauna here in Miami. We're going to be talking about that, contagions, diseases, health, wellness, all of that other stuff, and why you were censored so extensively for the information that you were providing to the general public that the establishment really didn't like. So we'll be talking about that extensively, all on the next platform. You don't want to miss it. Clint, where can people find out more information about you?
Liberty Lockdown is the show. Clint Russell is the name, at Liberty Lockpod on X. I also do Tower Gang. Don't watch that.
Steph?
You can find me on Instagram at Steph We Are Change, or on X at Steph WRC. I'm super excited to continue this conversation on the next platform.
All right. I don't think that doesn't mean to scream, ma'am. Yeah. I know you're getting your period. Calm down.
Chill out.
Sit. Relax. Calm down. Thank you very much. The conversation
That's the only woman it has ever worked on to say calm down.
I tried that many times. It backfired. Couch.
That's why we're both single.
Get on the couch. Couch. Thank you very much. I said couch. She's so defiant when she's getting her lady thing every 6 months. We still don't have a caller. That caller could be you if you sign up to lukeunfiltered.com and go into the Telegram channel. Call in, and we, of course, will be going to you in about 30 minutes from now. lukeunfiltered.com.
Go to the next platform.